I am so excited about the next couple of paragraphs, but I know the right thing to do is to go back and read the previous two paragraphs to get us into it.
Okay.
So that's the page 71.
Yes.
And so we'll start at the top of the page, even though we've already read the first two paragraphs. Let's do it again and then see where that takes us.
Okay.
You start, Bernie?
Okay. Delighted. During the course of fulfilling our obligations, we will invoke angelic presences. But why would we wish to invoke angelic presences if the invocation of the Absolute produces evolution? Does the Absolute have any data for the reconciliation of evolution? The Absolute does not have data which we need for our work, but the angelic presences, who are already part of the work, do have data.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a very important reason for our work invoking angelic presences. Besides, we need to slowly build our tolerance for presences belonging to higher dimensions. What do you suppose would happen to us if we were unprepared to be struck by lightning like that?
Thank you. Angelic invocation produces the ability to invoke the Absolute for longer and longer periods of time and makes us immune to the shock. Suppose we invoke the Absolute every day on a regular basis. Unless we can gather our strength for invocation, we cannot invoke the Absolute every day and expect to live a long life. Pass to Sandy.
As with arsenic, we can take small doses, increasing the dosage slowly over a long period of time, and eventually become immune to the toxic effects of the poison. In the same way, we can become immune to the invocation of a presence incomparably greater than our own, enabling us to invoke the Absolute for much longer than the time it takes to burn to a crisp. Another thing that happens with the invocation of the Absolute is that we use up our possible sacrifices, which is to say, we feed our beings to the Absolute at each invocation during prayer absolute. Now pass.
Thank you. You're no sound, Bernie.
Should I continue, Pat?
Yes, please, top of page 72.
Actors and actresses are reputed to have bad cases of aggravated vanity. But this is nothing in comparison to what angels have. Their vanity gives us power over them unless we also happen to have the same unfortunate weakness, the root of which is personal insecurity. We may wish to think of ourselves as possible candidates for the replacement of beautiful and charming celestial angels. But celestial angels are good only for one thing. Invocation of the seraphim and cherubim in support of the throne is not much help to the Absolute. In fact, the invocation of the Absolute from the higher angel posts or chambers has very little effect. The greater the disparity between invocants and invoked, the greater the effect. Of course, without this invocation, the throne would have fallen long ago.
Okay, is anybody curious about what that's saying? I mean, come on. That's a pretty blunt statement. It's saying the human being can do at this particular job they can do a better job at it than angels. Is that how you guys read it?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I honestly, I couldn't make sense of it. I was just going to ask if we could read again. So,
yeah. Oh, hi, NJ. Are you reading today or just listening? Hello, NJ. Are you reading today or just listening?
You shan't.
Yeah.
No, I can read.
Okay, letting you know we're on page 72, and we're going to reread what we've just read. So you're not going to be behind. You're going to be right with us. Okay, Bernie, do it again.
Okay. Actors and actresses are reputed to have bad cases of aggravated vanity. But this is nothing in comparison to what angels have. Their vanity gives us power over them, unless we also happen to have this same unfortunate weakness, the root of which is personal insecurity. We may wish to think of ourselves as possible candidates for the replacement of beautiful and charming celestial angels. But celestial angels are good only for one thing: invocation of the seraphim and cherubim in support of the throne is not much help to the Absolute. In fact, the invocation of the Absolute from the higher angelic posts or chambers has very little effect. The greater the disparity between invocants and the invoked, the greater the effect. Of course, without this invocation, the throne would have fallen long ago.
So Sandy, my take on this is to just become the old English teacher I was at one point and say, which part is the noun and which part is the verb and which part is the adjective. And when I read it that way, what I see is that they're naming the invocation of the seraphim and the cherubim as support of the throne. And I don't think that is the same as being of service to the Absolute. I'm not sure, but that's how I read it the first time. And then I looked down the bottom and it says, of course, without this invocation, the throne would have fallen long ago. So I'm going, okay, is there a difference between the throne and the Absolute? And that's where I get a little muddy, and I'm hoping that, it's going to get more clear as we go on. But that's what I seem to read, is that it's not stating that they're not doing something, being the angels that they are. It's just that they're not doing the same thing as humans can do. That's how I took it. But I'm open for discussion, because if I have to fall back on my English training, that's pretty far back.
yeah, when we read it again, I wasn't even thinking kind of the seraphim and cherubim. I was just just focused on the greater the disparity between invocant and the invoked, the greater the effect. And so then I was thinking, okay, there's a big disparity between us, and
Yeah.
so that yeah, and I think that's what you said originally. So I
Yeah.
see it now.
And if we take this sentence as, you know, the definition of what is the structure, like a description of a construct, you know, invocation being used as the thing that is being built, and then the purpose for which it is used. That worked a little bit better for me. I should read, right?
Yes.
Seraphim and cherubim, the great, terrifying, awesome angels of the highest dimensions, in a sense, suffer even more than the absolute, because although they exist in almost the same state, they cannot be invoked to our lower dimension as can the absolute, because we are not made in their image. It is just by chance that we human beings happen to reflect the image of the absolute. And by this chance, correspondents are able to invoke the absolute according to the law of similarity. Oh, I've got to open the door. Oh, jeez. Ay, ay, ay. Thank you. I mean, you could write a term paper on that one paragraph, right?
But
Yes.
in my case, that I was brought in the Catholic or Christian tradition,
Yes.
if I recall the dictum that says we are in Spanish is en imagen y semejanza a Dios.
Yes.
Image and similarity to God.
Yes.
I do the translation for the group. And I don't know if that's the case now to discuss or to comment, but I recall being a child and young and whatever. That phrase, that concept, now I see that gave humanity kind of privilege or knowledge that we are like God. And if we are like God, we can do anything. You know? That is a distortion probably of what is said here. Something that appears to have given civilization a power that is not a real power. So thinking that we are kind of gods in the earth. I don't know if that is interesting. No?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a massive statement. It is just by chance that
Yes.
we human beings happen to reflect the image of the absolute, and that by itself is astonishing. And then by this chance correspondence, because we look like, or we appear to be similar, that gives us the opportunity and the capacity to invoke what is the real thing. That's pretty astonishing statement. Yes.
But what I mean, that the inference of that statement that says here has, I think, probably mistaken and give us a knowledge of or a belief that we are gods.
Oh, okay.
That is what I mean. No,
Okay.
something terrible, because
Right.
that has separated us from nature, and
Right.
so and I think that is something that has been taken from this kind of whatever made teaching or tradition, and taken apart and use it for power.
Mhm.
Huh?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah, I get it.
You get it. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's an absolute true point, unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay.
Any more comment or question on this paragraph?
What page number is it? Sorry.
We are page 72, and we just read paragraph number 3. And did we hear it twice or only once? Once? Okay.
Yes.
I'll read it again. Seraphim and cherubim, the great, terrifying, awesome angels of the highest dimensions, in a sense, suffer more, even more than the absolute. Because although they exist in almost the same state, they cannot be invoked to our lower dimension as can the absolute. It is just by chance that we human beings happen to reflect the image of the absolute, and by this chance correspondence are able to invoke the absolute according to the law of similarity. And I'll collect your term papers on this paragraph next time, okay?
Sorry. Go.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bernie. Yes, please.
One point I see now, because I was very attentive to the other thing of the image, that it points out that somehow the invocation of bringing down the absolute is some kind of relief that to the absolute that the angels cannot cannot be used. Sorry, my English is. What I mean it appears to be that the invocation of the absolute is some kind of relief if we do it for the absolute, but the angels have not the same pleasure, let's say.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
as we have a similarity to the absolute, it gives via our invocation some kind of relief when we do it. Is that what we understand?
That's how I'm taking it at this point. That's how I get it. My my further picture about the development of these concepts in these chapters are one that it makes for intriguing mental effort to construct for myself, what does that mean? How does this make sense? And secondly, I always remember that if it's something that is real and true for me, it won't disappear when we finish reading the book. And there has been something that I have carried for quite a long time from these pages. So I know that it is active in me, and it's more than my mental construct of what do the words mean. So I'm grateful even just for the hearing of the words again, because sometimes I don't need the meaning. I just need the, whatever you call that, resonance, I guess. Like with song, you know, if you have the tones and they vibrate and you resonate with it, it doesn't matter that you hear the words or not.
Yes. Good.
So, very interesting. Anyone else on this paragraph? Or shall we attempt to go further?
Yeah. You know, Osho always said that I am the finger pointing to the moon. And I never understood what it is. I still don't, you know, but if I do this one, you know, moon also reflects the sunlight. There is no light of itself. And he always said that, you know, like EJ says that the moon's lunar parasite, right, the mind, and to clear, make it what is calm so that it reflects the absolute. And this is also saying that we can just reflect the absolute, the image of the absolute. So according to the law of similarity, so that's interesting. So we can, what is it? We can connect to absolute, right? I mean, there is no, is that the way to connect to the absolute?
I think the way that works for you is the way to start, whatever that is. The entrance, I believe, my opinion, the entrance is not ever specific, only this way works. There's a multitudinous of opportunity. So when they use the words law of similarity, my mathematical brain goes, oh yeah, like equals like. What does that mean? And I wander off.
Yeah.
And I wander off. And I know that for me is not one that I have successfully applied. I have other ones that work for me, but that one isn't one of them. So that's the other thing about this text is I find it is loaded. Almost every sentence has an opportunity in it if you have a way to work with it. And so there is no one way. As it's called, the hidden work, the hiddenness is really how do we make it available for ourselves, what is there. That's how I take it. That's not being very helpful, is it? Sorry.
No, I mean, this, I mean, it's just, you know, because he never said finger pointing to the sun. He always said finger pointing to the moon and then reflection of the moon. So I always wondered why he would use moon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think I will keep that as a pondering. Thank you. Because I haven't used that. Sandy,
Okay.
would you take us into the next paragraph and let's see what happens?
Sure. Thanks. It is sometimes necessary to invoke the fallen angels to obtain data for our work, so that we may prepare ourselves for a place in the work. Fallen angels can be more useful for our work because they are fallen. We need only learn their work and replace them. It is easier to occupy an empty chamber than one which is already occupied. A man who evolves to an angel is better than an angel who was created already partly evolved for the purpose of holding that post in the work. Because a man who has evolved from human life has the experience and understanding of the lower. I'll pass.
Thank you. Okay.
That brings me something
Uh-huh.
when it states that a man who has evolved from human life has the experience and understanding of the lower. I don't know, it reflects something that I have heard or read somewhere in this tradition, that we are here to experience and learn. I don't know exactly for what purpose, but it's reading this could signify that there is a purpose on our experience in this life, in this world, and the understanding that is that has some value. It's not meaningless.
Mm,
I got to I got to that place. No more.
okay.
Okay. Also, I would like to explore what is for you in plural, no, a fallen angel, a fallen angel.
I'm assuming that the words refer to the fact that an angel is not of the earthly, that it is of the higher, and that a fallen angel would be one that did not maintain the higher, something like that. That their capacity is no longer in the, what would you call that? In the highest dimensions. It has fallen from higher dimensions. That's how I understand the use.
There's a lot of things to explore them. Why have they fallen? Have they sinned? Have they failed? Whatever. But I think it's not the question at this point, no?
Right, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that there are references to it in these texts. So we will come across them, or we have already come across them, and we weren't.
Yeah, I'm realizing I should have probably just read that one paragraph because he's saying also that we can learn the work and take their place. So that's like,
Yeah.
well, what's their work, right? And if we take their place, well, yeah, that's really new to me. Yeah.
Yeah, how do we take the place? Is it limited place? Is it limited?
I was looking for some answers to your question, Sandy, in the previous pages, and I'm not coming across the quick reference point. So if you would email me that question, then I'll do a little research.
Okay. Maybe the answer's coming up.
Hmm.
And I'm guessing, Sean, that we've got maybe some definitions in here somewhere that we could write out. Maybe, you know, fallen angel equals X. And
I'm trying to look in the American Book of the Dead that has some
yeah,
answers there, but
yeah.
I am trying to. Earth games. Campaign. I think there is a book that has
Like more common definitions.
yes,
Uh,
I don't know which one.
yeah, I was looking in the back here with the periodic table, and I don't see that kind of definition in this area.
Oh,
I did look up angels in the index, and they have a reference to fallen angels
Yeah,
mentioned on page 72 where we are, then again on page 171. Now, I haven't found it on 171, the reference there in case.
in angelic voyage of healing journey, there is a glossary at the end, but
right.
it doesn't have angels. God will come and-
Okay.
Well, that homework for us.
Right. Okay. So Bernie, you'll email me that homework assignment, right? So I can participate because I don't have any memory. So
Great.
I'm relying on little memos coming to me.
Okay.
Well, I think it would be good, John, if you would read the first paragraph at the top of 73 before going on to the next one, because the context sometimes is important to connect up.
Okay. A man who evolves to an angel is better than an angel who was created already partly evolved for the purpose of holding that post in the work. Because a man who has evolved from human life has the experience and understanding of the lower. An angel is already a somewhat exalted being, but an automatically exalted creature cannot obtain a real understanding of organic suffering. He can only be a mechanical pillar for the support of the throne. Okay, I'll stop there.
Jayesh is not reading today, right? It's
I,
Bernie's turn.
we can obtain the force for our voluntary evolution by prayer and invocation. It is useful to visualize this force as originating from all past, present, and future humanity, while concentrating this force and sending it upward for the use of our endless Father, and at the same time bathing ourselves in the resulting radiation, which dawns upon us during prayer. Someday we will, through conscious effort and intentional suffering, pay back by conscious eternal return all this force we have stolen for our own evolution. We must not deny this depth when the time comes. Mm.
Interesting.
What is?
Says we have stolen. Someday we will, through conscious effort and intentional suffering, pay back by conscious eternal return all this force we have stolen for our own evolution. We must not deny this debt when the time comes.
Yeah, it's a triple whammy. We've got force that we obtain by our voluntary evolution, but that voluntary evolution occurs because of prayer and invocation. And the prayer and invocation comes as originating from all past, present, and future humanity. That's the part that just hits me. I'm just going, what? All past, present, and future humanity. And that is what gets used for the prayer and invocation. And the result of that means that we get the radiation and the resulting benefit. And then we have to pay for it. It's a triple whammy.
Yes, yes. Yes. So it means to me there is something. The word stolen is very strong, but something let's say we have used like money, you have used, and now we have to pay back. In the morning prayer. One second, please. But I'm looking for something that have been read for years, and I would like to share it with you now. You know, when the obligatory reader's invocation, there is a part that I always pondered when it says, "To the divine silence of the Lord of death, eternal and born resident of Thelazyman'sguidetodeathanddying, was sacrificed on redemption, to the redemption of all voyagers." The word redemption is kind of, a payment, a rescue.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can take your stamps to the stamp store and get them redeemed and get,
yes,
like
yes.
that. Yeah.
There is something in
Well, you're dropping out, Bernie.
that line here that I don't quite understand. And it's ours and it's not ours. It's from humanity.
Yeah.
Well,
But I think, Bernie, I see the relationship between those two things, paying back
triple
by
whammy, you said.
conscious. Oops, he's still
Well,
talking.
my
Okay.
connection. Yes, connection is unstable. A lot of to ponder here, no?
Try again, Sandy.
I was just wanting to say that that's a good connection that Bernie made, because I think it's the same. To me, it's the same thing. Pay back by conscious eternal return is the same, means the same to me as I read in the obligatory reader's invocation.
Mm-hmm.
His redemption for the redemption, he keeps coming back when he doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
For us. And I'll just throw in that when I read, every time I say that or read that, I think of EJ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The being that is the model of that exact thing. Yeah. Here is a prayer to use for the invocation of the evolutionary force. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit absolute, I wish this negative force to be used to feed the invocation of the presence of the Father. I hereby invoke the presence of the Father. I wish this negative force to be used to feed the invocation of the presence of love, which is the Son. I hereby invoke the presence of love. I wish this negative force to be used to feed the invocation of the presence of the Spirit absolute. I hereby invoke the presence of the Spirit absolute. And I pass.
Yes. Sandy? Yes, please, because I need more information.
Prayer absolute is a special prayer of a human being on behalf of the absolute. A form of prayer which is even higher than prayer absolute is that prayer of the absolute on behalf of human beings who are for the absolute his only hope of eventual redemption. Pass.
Here appears the word redemption. Mm-hmm.
The Absolute makes prayer on behalf of human beings. But the Absolute, just like human beings, cannot effectively pray for its own benefit. In this, as in many other ways, human beings and the absolute are very much alike, except that they are mirror images.
Do the next one, okay?
The absolute is the right side of the man, and the human being, the left, reflective side, in a somewhat symbiotic relationship, a marriage of opposites. Although it seems only one thing, because the reconciling factor allows them to fuse together. Of course, this unifying force is only present in a real man, not an unevolved human being. In this respect, man is both the creator and the created, the absolute and the relative, combined in one. Far from being invisible, the absolute is very visible. It is one half of a man. If we think,
Yeah, I just that paragraph has always just left me stumped because I like to visualize things and I just can't visualize this. It's yeah. Oh, thank you, Sandy. Yeah.
I have made notes
Oh, good.
when I read this book many years ago,
Yeah.
and I still read it. And with the notes, I don't know if I don't know. I won't talk about it. I will throw it in the book. To me, at least in a way, it resembles what is my very interest in not in life but in my what I read, that is neurobiology. You know, the two sides of the brain, no? You know,
Yeah.
and I still read this, and I read it to the end, and this could mean in the words of very esoteric information, uh, something that has to do with the way the mind works. I stop there because maybe I'm just guessing, but I took a note in the end of this chapter, and I put two cerebros, two brains. So if we care to continue reading, that would
Yes.
okay.
Yes. It's your turn.
If we think of a man as being divided down the middle, and if we think of a human being as being literally the image of the absolute, we can understand how we are made and why each side is ordinarily inaccessible to the other. Why, when our source of attention shifts during higher or lower stages from one side to the other, we lose those memories and ideas and fixations properly belonging to the other dimensional perceptions perceived by the other side of ourselves. And I pass.
If a man is really unified, he is no longer schizophrenic, meaning that his two sides are united. And he has access to both sides of himself, his higher and lower selves, both worlds, which is to say, his ordinary consciousness and his super consciousness, which Jung called the subconscious, at one and the same time. And Sandy, if you would finish the last paragraph, then we'll have a few minutes for a chitty chat.
Once again, we are forced to borrow the phrase from the Essene community of the early 1st century, before the time of Christianity. Make the left side as the right side, and the right side as the left side. Then make the two one. Then shall you enter the kingdom. Meaning that your perceptions will open up to the higher dimensions.
Yeah. So if there was a way to say the materials in the middle there about the absolute and the forms and all of that stuff, that content has a resolution of a kind by the end of the chapter, which is to put it into the personal, direct, your work on yourself aspect. That is what I find so astonishing about this particular chapter, because it's called How I Changed the Inevitable.
Yes.
Which is kind of like the last word on the whole chapter.
If a man is really unified, he's no longer schizophrenic, meaning that his two sides are united, and he has access to both sides of himself.
Yeah.
I assume you all know the findings of the last 20 or 40 years about how the mind works, no? Of course, no?
Yeah.
Yes, because now it's common knowledge. It wasn't common knowledge in the 70s.
It was not.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's amazing, no?
Yes, and still a challenge, I think, in some arenas of psychology and behavior and all that kind of stuff, and in the work on self-literature, the models of the definitions as EJ states them and as he applies them to the larger picture, that has a lot of reference in sciences. So, it's like, okay, if I got a little bit of chemistry or a little bit of biology, I have a little tiny picture of how it works on the biological realm. And I take that up a bit and go, okay, and humans are walking on the planet, and what does that mean, as far as the biology of the planet goes? And there's, that's, okay, 50 years ago, my high school. Now, the conversation is not just about, well, you should be paying a little bit of attention. The conversation is, what about the whole damn planet? That nice young lady from, I don't remember where she's run, the one, Goethe or Greta or Gilda? Greta, yeah. She's just showing us up every second going, come on, guys, pay attention. And she's using the whole planet as the methodology of, get it together. So interesting. How I changed the inevitable. It's just, I'd like to use that as my mantra. I don't dare, but I sure would like to. PJ's morning mantras are getting more and more accessible to me, but you know, this one hasn't come around. So do we want to read this chapter again, or are we going to give it up and say we'll go to the next chapter? I'm open either way.
I would like to go on.
Me too.
It's fascinating. Every chapter is fascinating. So my opinion
Yeah,
is to go on.
yeah, yeah,
Nishant, what do you say?
yeah. What do you say, Nisha?
I think, this is, and we, how we are reading this book, and we are in this zone where, we are spiritual, quote unquote.
Mhm.
And then when we do our day-to-day activities, then we are, identified with those activities. And, there is a disconnect, right? There is a,
Yes.
I'm just talking about, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if everyone has this
Yeah,
experience,
no,
but
that's,
like when we attend the morning meeting and we are doing the reading, we are like, oh, I am, so spiritual. I'm like, this higher being.
Mhm.
And then when we are doing our day to day, like kids get something and I'm all mad, I'm boiling inside that. Why, how can they do this completely identified. So I think if we bring some of this to the mechanical side, and some of when we are feeling this high spiritual, then bring that mechanical into this zone, that okay, I am this and this, and then when we go on that side, I'm this and this. I
Mhm.
think that's how we can mix the left and right together,
Mm.
not be completely that, oh, I am so good, and then I'm so like low life. Maybe that's the way to bring the left and right, and may eventually maybe merge it together.
Yes,
Thank you.
I like that.
You ever hold a mirror up behind your head and then look in the mirror, and then look in the mirror?
Yeah,
That's how I see these sessions where we pick up this material from the book. Is I try and keep the book there, keep the mirror reflecting back from the content, and then when I look in the mirror, then I have the chance to get a little bit of that reflected back as I go through the day. And that's yeah, I appreciate your reflecting on it. Thank you.
Me too.
Well, I'm going to call it and tell Hans that he needs to post this. For now, we're going to call this, we're done with this chapter, and we're going to move to the next chapter. And I'm open to discussion or conversation or disagreement about that topic. I'm okay with doing it again also. So, so I have a suggestion. We had a small piece of something that we could all read together. That's the bottom of page 73. We could just do that first paragraph of the prayer to use for the invocation of the evolutionary force.
Yeah.
So we can say this together and then we'll be complete for today.
Okay.
Okay.
In the name
In
of
the
the
name
Father,
of
The
the
Father,
Father,
Son,
the
the
Son,
Son,
and the
and
Spirit
the
Spirit
absolute.
Spirit absolute,
I wish
I
wish
this
this
negative
negative
force
this
to be
negative
used
force to
used
to
to
be the invocation
the
of the
invocation
presence
presence
of the Father.
invocation of the
of the Father.
presence.
I hereby
by
invoke
invoke
I
the
invoke
presence of the
presence
Father.
Presence
Father.
of the
of the
Father.
Father.
Thank
Great,
you.
thank
Nice.
you.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Maybe I'll print
Thank
it.
you.
See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Michelle.